That same day I sold the car, I went and bought me a brand new van and called my buddy up and said, hey, I'm ready. I sold my car, bought this van, I'm ready to go. And he's like, wow, you're serious? And I'm like, yep, I'm committed. He looked at like what are the top 10 easiest businesses to start up. One of the top 10 was auto glass.
Really?
So yeah, we're working to stay afloat, but we're not getting paid, but we're drowning at the same time. Where it got really scary, a lot of uncertainty.
Hello everyone, welcome to Tea Talk. Today we have Roger. Why don't you give us a 2-minute bio about yourself and also about your business?
Sure. So yeah, my name is Roger Nakata. I am 38 years old, born and raised in Orlando, Florida. Been living here in Tampa for about almost exactly a year now. So I'm enjoying being here. How I started my business, pretty much my whole life I've been in guest services. I worked at a golf course for a couple of years. Was Windermere Country Club, very nice course. Just wanted to golf as much as I could. Didn't really care about the pay, honestly, because it wasn't that good. But I did that. Was a server too. Worked for Marriott for a number of years, but just got tired of working for someone else. Wanted to be my own boss. Wanted to start something for my own. Plus, I got married and wanted to start a family, so I knew I had to pretty much put my big boy pants on and be a little bit more responsible, I guess. So a good friend of mine who I met when I was in high school, he was my older brother's friend. He had his own business where he did auto glass. Was interested in doing something like that, because I love cars, been around cars my whole life, and just want to learn something about the trade, be a specialist in something. So I was open to anything. I was just literally motivated to want to start something, want to learn something, and didn't care what the pay was, just get the experience so that I can put something towards my future, and building something. I approached my friend, asked him, hey, are you looking, would you mind if I come with you for like a ride along? You don't have to pay me. I just want to check it out, learn the business, and see if it's something that I can do. And he said, oh yeah, absolutely. So rode with him for like a week. Definitely enjoyed it. Definitely seen something I can do as a possible career choice. He told me pretty much, if you're serious about this, he'll help me get started, whatever I need help with, learning the business, whatever, like he'll help me out. And that's exactly how he got into business, because he was the same situation. A good friend of his did the same thing for him. Okay. So it's kind of like passing it down. Yeah. And he was like, if you're serious about this, you gotta get yourself a van. So, didn't have much money at the time, but I had my car. I had at the time it was a Scion FRS. I said sure, and in 2 days I had the car sold. That same day I sold the car. I went and bought me a brand new van from Ford, and called my buddy up and said, hey, I'm ready. I sold my car, bought this van, I'm ready to go. And he's like, wow, you're serious? And I'm like, yep, I'm committed. And so he knew I was serious then, and that's when he was a man of his word and helped me get started. And yeah, so that was pretty much 7 years ago. We did pretty well. His mother, unfortunately, which was pretty much like the backbone of his business, he did the phone calls, the appointments and such, she passed away from COVID, and she actually trained my wife on how to do everything that she did. She trained her to do the exact same thing. So in that situation, my friend needed some help, and so I told him, whatever he needs, I'm gonna help him out, because I wouldn't be here in my situation if it wasn't for him. Yeah. So we ended up merging our company together, and we expanded the business. I was living in Miami the last 2 years before to help do that, and that's why I moved to Tampa to help expand our network in Central Florida, and that's where I'm at right now.
Nice.
So,
yeah, that's super cool. So one of the questions I have for you is, and that kind of leads off of what we were just talking, or what you were just telling me, is how important is it to have like a good network of friends, that can build you up, in life or even in business?
Absolutely. It's to me, it's very important. I feel like in order for you to grow or to have some kind of inspiration, you got to have that environment. You got to put yourself in that environment. If you're around a bunch of people or friends that are real negative or aren't really doing much with themselves, you're gonna find yourself doing the same thing. And I feel like if you put yourself around a good group of people, like-minded as yourself, motivated, maybe family oriented or religious, whatever it may be, it helps you turn into the person that you want to be.
Yeah.
And I want to be around people that are successful, have experience, knowledge that they can pass on to to someone like me who's looking for that guidance, for those answers to help me get to my goals. It takes time too, to figure that stuff out. And there's so many people, as I'm pretty sure you are with this channel, is you learn from all these successful business owners that have gone through the struggles, the life lessons that they learned. And you get an idea what to avoid or what to do in those if you ever be in those situations, encounter those situations.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where it's you get all the help you can get. They can try to help you as much as they can to protect you and to avoid those situations, but it's one of those things where you have to experience it yourself in order to truly learn and grow from it. So I learned a lot in these last 7 years, honestly, and it's definitely changed my mindset, changed everything who I was from back then to it is now, for sure. And yeah, very appreciative and enjoyed the journey so far to get here, and I'm still looking forward to it for the years to come.
Sweet. And then like, let's touch base more about like your auto glass business. Is like, how many people are under the company, how many clients do you guys have, and then not only that, but how much work are you actually putting in a week, and then what does your day-to-day look like? Which I know those are a lot of questions, but just kind of I want to see, kind of curious as to like what that looks like for you.
Sure. So yeah, on our auto glass business, when we had merged the company, this was just when COVID happened, so obviously everything was shut down. So my partner had a couple employees, but unfortunately there wasn't no work, and so he had to let them go. Obviously losing his mother too to COVID, it was just him. So it was pretty much just us three at the time. Once Orlando pretty much opened up, like obviously Florida was like the first state to let the whole people come in and try to get life back to normal. Business obviously came in, so people are driving, people are traveling, so obviously people needed windshields. So yeah, so business started picking back up again and started stabilizing. Picked up a few employees where we had to train them and get them familiar with the whole business of becoming a specialist for installs and calibrations. And right now, currently, we are at 7 employees.
Wow.
Yeah.
7 employees.
Yeah. So we were up around 10, 11 when we were busy like 2 years ago. We do have a few clients that we have that are like commercial accounts.
Okay.
One of our biggest ones that we had that we still have technically is a 6 rental car.
Okay.
So that's why they're a nationwide account, but we were in charge of all of Florida for them.
Wow.
Which is why.
That's huge.
Yeah, it was definitely a huge account. Very nice. We also do like city furniture, which is a big one here in Central Florida. Spectrum. Cable.
Nice.
So those are some of our big clients that we do have. But we also not just do commercial fleets, we also do personal vehicles through insurance, all the major insurance companies. So if someone had like the vehicle, we're mobile, so we pretty much wherever they want the job to get done, we can do it, whether it's at their job or their home. We can do it anywhere. And yeah, we do that. And we also do, like I said, the calibrations. So every newer vehicle now comes with cameras and safety features. So whenever you take out the windshield and that camera is touched, you're supposed to recalibrate to make sure everything hasn't been changed or messed up from the factory. So we're able to go in there and do that. More technology, just more stuff that you have to do in order to make sure those safety features are working properly.
And then what does like your day-to-day look like, just as a business owner?
Well, my day-to-day pretty much, since we do have employees that are working, it's just pretty much overseeing, making sure everything is running good. A lot of times, I have some of my technicians, they'll be on the field, they run into some issues, they'll call me up or my partner up for help, pretty much walk through in case they need help, there's any situations that they do need help on. At first it was obviously a lot because they were more newer, but now it hasn't been too bad. My guys have been doing pretty well, so more to day is just help my wife because she does the phones and the emails, help her with that. But we have 2 young kids, so pretty much like doing daddy duty at the time right now, you know.
It's an honor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So fortunate with that, and yeah, everything was good. You know, everyone's making money, everyone's happy. You know, because end of the day, it's trying to live comfortably, enjoying life, and making sure my employees, they have every tool possible to succeed, and making sure that they're making enough money to support their families. You know, so there's always that pressure on you, because it's not just people, my own family relying on me. It's my employees' families relying on me, making sure that we have those jobs for these guys to, you know, support.
Yeah.
So it's whether it's trying to go get new accounts or trying to get, you know, more leads for possible, you know, business. You know, that's more of the day-to-day too as well. That I consist of my days.
Yeah.
And other than that, and that's pretty much it.
That's awesome. And then you also get to go golfing with me this morning.
Absolutely.
So,
dude, golfing on a Tuesday morning.
That's awesome.
And you can't beat that, dude. So.
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna have a 9-hole match, and he's a 7 handicap. I'm about a 6, so shouldn't really need any strokes. He also hit the putting and chipping green and stuff.
Yeah, did a little chipping.
That's his handicap for today.
This is my first time playing though. So
yeah, first time playing in 2 months. I played yesterday, so
yeah, you got that, but first time playing here too. So this is
that's
is
true.
your home
I know the
course.
course. I'll help you out as much as I can, but
all right.
Yeah, well, we should have a good match here.
Absolutely.
So, all right. So, one of the questions that we always like kind of ask our guests are, you know, we'll start with the 2-minute bio, and then we'll go to, you know, how do you make your money? And I know you kind of went over that, but can you tell me more about all the types of income that you have personally, and then maybe what are some other ways that you use to make money? And then, like, for example, in your business, like, what is, you can go further into the question, say, you know, this is what makes me more money in this auto business than like another thing. And then,
well, so right now, like, the only income I have is pretty much through the business.
Yep.
I don't really do stocks or anything like that.
Yep.
But like the only thing I do make money in is that I do have season tickets to like the Panthers.
Okay.
Like the Florida Panthers, and you know, since obviously they're doing really well, because when I was in Miami, I love hockey, and I knew when I go down there that I was gonna probably get season tickets, so I bought season tickets there, you know, 3 years ago, and that was when they started doing really good. And now I just sell the tickets. I can't go there now because I live in Tampa, and so like last year, you know, obviously that made me extra money, especially since they went to the finals, Game 7, you know. So that's like pretty much the only extra money I get. Other than that, you know, there's no other money other than the business, you know, itself. That's just pretty much the main thing right now.
Yeah. And then like in your business, like what type of jobs provide like the most amount of income?
So pretty much, you know, with your commercial accounts, you clearly can't charge as much because they give you quantity. Yep. So it makes up for the difference. So the fleet accounts are nice because it's like guaranteed work. You're gonna usually get a minimum every week, as per se when you do personal vehicles, it's always up in the air.
Yeah.
You know, it depends on the season, and just it can be luck where you get a major flow of jobs coming in for personal vehicles for 1 week. The next week, you know, it'll be really slow and you got nothing going on really. But with that, you know, when you go through insurance companies, anything insurance, obviously there's they pay you more top dollar for what is with fleet accounts. You know, they're trying to get like the cheapest price possible, but they're going to give you quantity to make up for the difference. Yep. So that's usually how it goes.
Yeah, keep your employees, you know, with work and stuff. But another question is, if someone were to, you know, start a auto glass business, how easy is it to start it? What is the initial capital, and how much education do you need in the field?
The reason why my partner had started the business, you know, it was during 2008, during the recession time. So obviously, business all around were doing good, and he looked at like what are the top 10 easiest businesses to start up, and one of the top 10 was auto glass.
Really?
So yeah, so that's how he got into it, and then that's why I said he had a friend of his that lived in Phoenix that did it, and that's how he got trained, because he flew out there and pretty much did that for a few months. But essentially, what it is there's no education obviously involved. You just all experience, and depending on what tools you have, you know, to do auto glass, it's not hard, it's not rocket science. End of the day, it is just manual labor, but every vehicle is different, so you have to be able to be a critical thinker, I would say. You know, you have to be able to think on your own in this field. because since every car is different, you might encounter certain problems that you don't encounter in other vehicles. So you have to be able to think on your own to be a problem solver and basically figure it out on your own and just get it done. End of the day, get it done. Make sure you don't damage the vehicle, and make sure it's obviously up to the safety standards, and try to leave it obviously improved with a new windshield, but obviously leave the car intact to where you don't cause any damage or issues down the road.
Yeah.
So it's all about having proper tools as well. You invest into as any business, the more you invest into your business to make it better, be more efficient, is always better. There's a lot of people who don't do that, and we call them hackers pretty much, and they're the ones that will definitely hurt your car more, and they're the ones that usually charge you the cheapest. That's what the phrasing is. So it's not always cheaper. It's not always better to go for the cheaper option. And in auto glass, it's definitely 100% true for this, because you get what you pay for sure.
Okay.
But yeah, to start the business, not hard at all. You just need if you're mobile, you just need a van. You need obviously get your LLC, and get the proper tools. It's not that expensive to get started, to basically get through the job. That's why I said, like, there's a lot of people who've been doing this for a long time, and they're using the basic tools, and they might be really good at it, doing it, but those are the ones that can, if you make a mistake, that can definitely hurt the vehicle or cost repairs. But there's these newer tools where they use a wire instead of metal blades. You're using a wire to cut, so it's nylon, so you're able to cut the glass out without damaging the paint or causing any issues to where later on it might rust, and then you get major problems later on. So it's one of those things that
it's worth the investment.
Absolutely. So yeah.
Okay. And then what is like your average ROI on a job?
A lot of the jobs, it's you're basically buying the glass, but if and the glue and primer, it's called,
and then also labor.
So I would say for this, it just all depends on the fleet accounts for the insurance jobs. There's good return obviously with the insurance and with calibration. Calibration is kind of like the future, where you basically have to invest a lot of money into getting the system in order to do it. But there's more of a ROI on it when it's done. But now that calibration has been out for a while now, so now it's not as exclusive with it. A lot more people are getting more trained on it, so now it's more competitive, to where now the prices are dropping to where you can charge as much. And but yeah, you got your labor. It's definitely a good way to make more money for sure, doing this compared to any other job. And I feel like it's a good way if you're trying to start. It's one of those things, just like I feel like landscaping, it's like
exactly,
same principle. Pool cleaning, it's the same thing.
How saturated is the market for auto glass? Do you think it's not really tapped into, or do you think it's oversaturated, or it's becoming more saturated? Or
yeah, in Orlando and Miami, it's definitely oversaturated. There's so many companies out there, because when you go there in the morning to start your day, the warehouses are full of vans of people doing it. And Tampa, it's not so bad, but the issue is, these are all the little guys. You got the big company like Safelite, or Auto Glass Now, which are literally trying to flush us out. And so they're like the McDonald's of auto glass. And the thing with them is that they're kind of like in bed with the insurance companies. So it's kind of like a monopoly they have over the business. And they kind of like try to, since they're with your insurance companies, they transfer you to Safelite when you make a claim. And they basically try to steer the customer to go with them instead of the little guy, which they're not supposed to, but it does happen. And but yeah, it's definitely oversaturated. It's very competitive, which comes to the problem then too, is that it's pretty much like a race to the bottom. There's companies out there that are just desperate for a job, and they'll go ahead and just lower the price market down to where there's not much profit margins on it, and they don't care. And they're the ones that you get what you pay for, and they're the ones that are ruining it for the ones that actually do the quality work and put in that. So it's definitely, I would say, oversaturated with not very well trained technicians as well.
So how do you stay competitive with all the saturation?
Honestly, it's just been our quality of work. We definitely strive on our quality, being on time, which is very important. Our customer service is top notch, and we do try to do same day, next day service.
Wow.
So the turnaround time is huge. So when you have these big corporate accounts, when those vans are down, that costs them money. When those rental cars are just sitting there in the lot waiting to get repaired, that costs them money. So the fact that we're able to make sure we do same day, next day service, they don't sit there long, and they're able to clearly make profits on their vehicles, whether it's a work vehicle or the rental car or the personal vehicle. We try to get that out as quick as possible and have them back on the road.
Yeah. All right. So another question that we ask our guests is, how do you invest your money, and like what does that look like to you?
Pretty much the only investment I do is just pretty much investing right back into the business. Whenever you start a new business, it's hard. You can't really cut yourself a check as per se. You got to keep investing in the business, making sure you're paying your wages, taxes, and all your tools and supplies. So it's a lot of investment with the early stage of the business has been just putting back into the business, and that's what we've been doing still. We obviously get some returns, obviously making some profits on it, but as the business grows, so is your money you have to have saved to reinvest back into the business. You got to have that money saved on the side for those, and obviously if it does get slowed down, you need to make sure obviously keep money afloat. So it's been more like that with my investment, nothing other than that outside of it.
And then what are some things that you are looking to invest back into your business this year? It's
been a slow year for glass, and a lot of people have been hurting. So a lot of people that we talk to, our friends with in the industry, have all been saying the same thing. Even like I said, our friend in Phoenix, it's been a struggle over there for him as well. So right now is just pretty much trying to keep the jobs coming in, just trying to stay afloat till obviously the busy season comes. Busy season comes, it's usually spring break.
Okay, spring break.
And so
why is that?
It's just more people are traveling.
Okay.
People are driving more. Usually during the holidays, it's like that. But after holidays, people are just staying home. From January to March, people are just home, not really much traveling as much. And spring break, it picks up, slows off a little bit, but when summer comes, it's busy all the way till start of the school year, August, September. So pretty much you gotta think it's whenever people are traveling the most. Since obviously we're Florida, it's a tourist destination. That's when people are driving more, and that's when you have these issues with cracked windshields or break-ins and such. After major holidays, the week after is usually the busiest, because they're traveling there. But when they come back, that's when they start taking care of their stuff. There's slow times as any other business in the tourism industry, and same as us. So right now it's just not really much in reinvesting, because we already have enough employees right now. We have enough vans, tools, calibration systems, and it's just trying to get that steady, more focused on gain more clientele right now, and just staying afloat. So that's pretty much what the main focus is with the business.
And then how do you get your customers, or what's the best way that you get your customers? Because I'm sure there's a couple different ways. Like you said, word of mouth is huge for you guys. But what other ways do you guys?
Yeah, like I said, word of mouth has always been our number one way of getting business, especially with our commercial accounts. A lot of people in these businesses are always looking for quality technicians, obviously within their budget. So we try to work what we can to get those clients and to make them happy, and always exceed their expectations, go above and beyond. Other ways is just like any other business, social media, online marketing. We have customers, we try to get reviews, build your reputation through the reviews. We do have a good amount of reviews of people that were happy with our service, and that helps a long way with the Google reviews, especially also through Yelp is another way of getting the business. But for us, it's always been, like I said, word of mouth has usually been the thing that we've been able to get most of our business from, and just past experience with people that hired us that went on maybe to a different location, and just it's spread out from there. And so we've been able to get more accounts that way as well.
Yeah, and the people out there, if they're wanting to know how to get more word of mouth business, my advice, and I'm sure you can agree with this because I was just kind of touching on listening to what you have to say. I'm sure you agree with this, and this is the best way to get word of mouth recommendations is by quality service and customer service. With those two things, people are going to want to recommend you out to other people because you treated them well and they'll treat you well. If they're not worrying about their service and they see the quality like in your work, like they're gonna want to recommend you out to someone else because they trust you. If they trust you, then someone else who's asking for a similar service, they're gonna trust you enough to, you know, offer it to them, because if they offer it to someone else and you do a bad job, it's on them too.
Yeah, whenever giving recommendations, you know, when you're younger, it's like, yeah, sure, you always recommend whoever, but when you get older, you realize that it can come back to you, and it can hurt you, because whenever you recommend somebody, you know, it's someone that you trust, that you would want them to do to your vehicle. So for instance, like, you know, I recommend someone to do my windshield, someone I trust, and if they do a bad job, it just makes me look bad, and I feel terrible about it, you know. And there's friendships that have lost because of stuff like that, you know, because they you know, some people take it serious, or if they recommend them and they also weren't that good, you start questioning them and their standards, or what, you know, what they expect. But absolutely, recommendations, it's very important to us, because, you know, we want to make sure quality is there. You want to go above and beyond for your customer to make sure that they're happy with the experience from the start to end. You know, right when we pick up the phones, talk to them through text. You want to make sure that whenever you get first contact a customer, that you make them feel comfortable and appreciated. And, you know, when we do these jobs, we give a window of when we're going to be there, and we try to show up there, you know, early. And because everyone's busy, everyone has jobs, lives, families. Obviously, we're not trying to make their days worse or, you know, harder. So we try to be there on time, quick service, in and out, so they can go on and continue their days and not be bothered by that. And so we always focus on that and try to deliver that quality and assurance to our customers.
Yeah, that's good. One of us is going to try to make a birdie on this hole. We'll see who it's going to be.
My money's on you, Seth.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, Roger. So we were talking earlier about, you know, finding quality employees. Could you kind of go over again what you were saying?
Yeah, like I said, as the phrase goes, you know, good help is always hard to find, which is definitely true. You know, learning that as being a business owner. One of the, you know, sayings I always say, it's like the same thing as a car. You know, when people are car guys, you know, or builders, you know, you want a car that's cheap, reliable, and fast. And unfortunately, you're only able to pick two of the three, and by doing so, it never works out. There's always gonna be issues with it no matter what. And the same goes, I feel like, with employees. You know, you want someone that's hardworking, reliable, and maybe like a good critical thinker. You know, someone that can think on their own. But unfortunately, you know, it's hard to find employees that actually can have all three traits. You know, because you definitely need all three in order to have a good business, you know, ran, you know, with good employees. You know, some things that are common sense, you know, aren't common sense for everybody, you know, unfortunately. But pretty much what it is when looking for employees, trying to find someone that has all three of those traits, which is what I look for the most. And you know, we got a good group of guys right now that are able to have those. And yeah, so far it's been okay. But we've had those issues before with some employees that just weren't able to have all three, and we had some issues.
Yeah, so when you're looking for a new employee, and you probably don't know too much about them, but it's okay for them to have like 2 of the 3, but it's not okay if they just have 1 of the 3.
Correct. You know, you obviously can.
You're missing out on a lot.
Exactly. You can work with them, obviously train them to get to that point, but you know, there's, you know, some people that just aren't hardworking. There's just some people that aren't reliable, no matter how many chances you give them. You know, it's just the way it is. And then there's some people that just aren't able to think on their own. They always need someone to help guide them, which we try to do as much as we can, but it comes to a point where it's, you know, when it comes to a point where it's no longer accepted. You know, so
yeah. All right, so another question I had, and I've just started asking all of our guests this, and again, shout out to Clay Lehman for this idea. One of the things that we've been asking is, there's a saying, it's called like your wall in business. And it's like a time in your life where, you know, it was a critical moment in your life where you knew you needed something to change, or else, like, you know, you hit the backstop. The wall was right here, and you never want to go back there again. And like, that's your why for why you are successful in business, or want to continue being strong in business, and because you never want to go back to that wall.
Absolutely.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about what your wall is, if you don't mind.
So pretty much, you know, for us, you know, with the auto glass business, it's very competitive, and it's, there's no guarantees in this thing. You know, there's people that have been in business for a long time and they've closed up shop because they had a rough patch and they weren't able to get past it. And so that's one of the biggest things with this being in this business. You will encounter that, you know, quite often. One of our issue is you know, when we had merged the company together because of COVID, and you know, we were struggling, you know, trying to stay afloat, you know, keeping accounts. And at that point, it was where, you know, Orlando was shut down pretty much, and no one's really working. But you know, they opened the doors to let people back in and try to resume normal life again. And we had it to where we're doing jobs for our corporate accounts, but their accounting department was still closed because people weren't working. So it's like we're still doing jobs, but we're not getting paid. So, you know, it's like one of our biggest accounts, and it became an issue where it's like we're working to stay afloat, but we're not getting paid, but we're drowning at the same time. You know, and that's where it got really scary and you know, a lot of uncertainty. When they started, you know, paying us and we started get back in the green, so we were okay, it came to a point where they wanted us to expand even more. So at the time, you know, we weren't prepared for that because obviously our situation at the time, especially with COVID, so it became a point where do we say no to where we possibly lose that account, and then now we're going to be, you know, struggling even more, or just say yes, take that leap of faith and, you know, just go for it and just make it happen. And as a business owner, you know, you have to have the mentality, can't be scared, you know, have to be able to
be a yes man.
Yeah, be a yes man, always say yes, you know, and figure it out later, you know, because one of the things is when someone's trying to give you business, it's one of those things that you don't want to say no, you always want to say yes and just make it happen, because, you know, you're turning down money, you know. And so it became an issue where it's like, you know, where, you know, we're based just in Orlando at the time, so in order for us to do that, you know, I would have to move in order for it to do that. My partner, he, you know, was more established here, and he had his family there in high school, so it's a lot harder. Me, I had a 3-year-old daughter, and I just had a newborn son at the time. But when that was the case, when they asked us if we wanted to expand to go down south, within 2 seconds I said yes. And I said absolutely, because I'm committed to the business no matter what, and that means me moving my family, then that's gonna have to be it. Because not only am I committed to my family, I'm committed to my partner and his family to try to make sure this works, because again, I was indebted to him, you know. And so it was a no-brainer for me, and I was committed. Like I said, I was fully committed to the business, and whatever I had to do to pull my own weight, I felt like, because I felt like I didn't bring as much as obviously my partner did, you know, that's what I wanted to do. And that's the thing too, is, you know, I use this phrase as well too, it's, if you're a gambling person, you know, if you're ever to make put a bet on something, anything in your life, if you put one bet on anything, I always tell people the one bet that you can place that usually will always come out, that where you can dictate the outcome, is on yourself. So if you bet on yourself, and as long as you work towards that goal to make sure you win that bet, it's like you control that outcome, because as long as you're committed to it and every day you push towards that, then you'll get there eventually, no matter what. So, you know, you could bet on sports or, you know, games. It's always a coin toss. You never know. But the one guarantee in anything in life is betting on yourself. And as long as you're committed and you're dedicated to it, you'll always win that bet. You know. And so that's what I did. I bet on myself to make sure to make it happen, and that's exactly what we did. You know, it was a struggle. You know, especially newborn, first time being out on our own, especially. You know, and that pressure definitely pushed me to make sure to not, you know, fail. You know, and I was just focused on just making it happen and pulling through, and that's exactly what happened. And so it was a good moment in our life where it was at that point where it's like, do we decide to do this or not? You know, and it forced me to go ahead out of my comfort zone and just believe in myself and just push through it, and that's what we're able to do. And it definitely helped me out with my outlook on life, especially.
All right, Roger, so I have one more question for you, and it's you know, what is a quote, and I know you've given us 2 quotes so far, but what is a quote that has stuck with you and you think that people can get something out of?
I would say probably the best quote, you know, for any young entrepreneur is being comfortable in the uncomfortable. You know, don't be scared to try new things. Obviously, whenever you're doing anything new, it's going to be uncomfortable. But once you get used to having that feeling, then obviously it won't be uncomfortable. You'll get used to it, to where you'll be more have the courage to do things that you normally wouldn't have done. And that's what I've been really trying to focus on ever since I started the business, is just being comfortable in the uncomfortable. Don't procrastinate. Don't be scared to do things. Just go for it and just work through it. Like you said, like just say yes and figure it out. Same situation, just whatever it is, whatever customer needs, just say yes, absolutely, and just try to make sure to get it done. And that's what we've done, and pretty much been successful with it so far. It's worked out pretty nicely. So definitely, if that was one thing I would say out of those other two courses, it would definitely be that one.
Okay. And then one other thing is, what was think of a time like throughout your time in business, what was like your hardest moment, like you had to make the hardest decision, I guess.
Hardest decision. Hardest decision was definitely probably obviously the move to Miami. For us for I guess for my personal experience, or just in general.
Yeah, personal.
I'm sorry. Yeah. So in my personal experience, the hardest decision was making the move to Miami, and as any young entrepreneur, you're always going to come across these situations where you obviously have to think not only for yourself but for your family. If you have that. For me, I had a family, so it's like I had to do that, and plus I had other people relying on me, so it's more added pressure. So when you're by yourself and it's a business just yourself, and it's a lot easier for that, making decisions. But making a decision that not only has an effect on you but also your family, that's probably one of the toughest things for me, because again, we had a newborn baby, and we're literally moving away from all our close relatives in Orlando to be by ourselves in Miami to do it all while running a business at the same time. So my wife, she's answering the calls with the baby crying in the background, and so it's tough. And then me out there on the job doing everything, trying to keep everything afloat. It was a lot of pressure for us, and there were some tough times for us, but we managed to get through it, and it definitely made us stronger, as a family and as individuals. So it helped. And that's the thing, is whenever you get these hard times, it's like pressure makes diamonds. The more pressure you have, that's what happens. So once you get through it, you just feel stronger. It's more life lessons you've learned, more experience, and it makes you a stronger person, individually, in business. And that's what people want. People pay to get that kind of experience, to get through that kind of stuff. And so definitely I would say that was one of the toughest things that I encountered personally in the business. Look at that. Nice putt, dude.
It felt good.
Oh yeah, man.
Hey, it's great playing with you today.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Seth. Appreciate it.
That was awesome. All right, we just finished up, won by 1 or 2 strokes, or something?
2 strokes.
2 strokes, so
yeah, by 2, not 1.
Pretty close there. Had an opportunity, but closed him out. But
yeah,
again, thank you so much, Roger, for coming on the channel.
Absolutely,
and
Seth.
talking about your business and giving us the valuable information about your business.
I appreciate
and
having
your personal
me.
life too.
Yeah, I appreciate having me, and it was a lot of fun. Golf on a Tuesday, can't complain. Like I said. So yeah, I enjoyed it, and down for it again whenever you want.
Sweet.
Give me that rematch.
Yeah, let's do. Oh, a little rematch. Yep,
Yeah.
yep. And then we be with your actual clubs next time.
Yeah.
And then you'll be prepared.
No excuses though. But
yeah, no excuses there. But all right, guys, we'll see ya.